Good afternoon, everybody. Before we start the official part of our business, I'd like to wish all the directors a very happy new year. And I'd also like to wish the staff a very happy new year. And thank you for all the work that you do. And if there's anyone watching, I'll wish you a happy new year as well. I'll call the meeting to order at 1:30. And I'd like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the unceded territories of the Huipachesset and Shuswap First Nations territories. And we're grateful for the opportunity to do so. And also acknowledge that people are calling in from other territories, and we like to express our gratitude for those nations as well. I also want to give notice that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube and will be on the Regional District website. So because this meeting is being live streamed and we don't have names at the bottom of our people that are present in the room, we'll just go around and do introductions. So if there's anybody out there watching, you know who's in the room. We'll start over here with our CAO.
Hi, I'm Daniel Sion, the CAO for the ACRD.
Cal Roberts, alternate director for Area C, Long Beach.
I'm Randy LaCourcier. I'm the alternate for Penny. Penny unfortunately can't make it. Her mom passed away just about a week ago, so I'm here to help her out.
And thank you for being here. And thank you, Cal, for being here as well. I'm Susan Roth, director for Beaver Creek.
Hi, everyone. Wendy Thompson, General Manager of Administrative Services for the Regional District.
Hi, Mike Erg. I'm General Manager of Planning and Development for the Regional District.
Thank you. My name is Debbie Haggard, and I'm the Vice Chair for the Regional District, and Chair Jack was unable to be here today. So he asked me to take on the duties of chairing the board meeting, and I'm very happy to do so. So the first thing on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is any errors or omissions? Hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Director Roth. Seconded by Director LaCourcier. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Now is the time to declare any conflicts of interest or gifts exceeding $250 in value as per section 106 of the Community Charter. Seeing none, we'll go on to the adoption of minutes. The first minutes is the Board of Directors meeting on December the 14th, 2022. Could someone move that the meetings of the Board of Directors meeting held on December 14th, 2022 be adopted as presented? Motion by Director Boyko, seconded by Director Roth. Any comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next motion is that the minutes of the Special Board of Directors meeting held on December 21st, 2022 be adopted. Could someone make that motion? Motion by Director McEwen, seconded by Director Roth. Any comments or questions regarding the minutes? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next on our agenda is delegations. And today we have Marcy DeWitt, Alberni Clayoquot Health Network regarding annual ACHN activities report and introduction for new members. And she's also going to give an overview of plans for UBCM Poverty Reduction Grant and invitation to participate. Marcy, always nice to see you, even if it's not in person. We're happy to have you here by Zoom. And just a reminder, you'll have about 10 minutes. And we'd like to have some time for questions afterwards as well. Thank you. So go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'll just get to my presentation and share my screen for you all. Thank you. Excellent. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. It's always a pleasure to come to the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District and present. As you know, we do aim to do a presentation every year to fill you in on the activities of the Alberni Clayoquot Health Network. what we've been up to, and what we have planned for the year coming. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Marcy DeWitt. I've been the coordinator for the Alberni-Clyquot Health Network for the past 8 years. We work with all the communities in the Alberni-Clyquot Regional District, the 3 municipalities, 10 Nuu-chah-nulth nations, and 6 electoral areas. And we do so to increase the overall community health. So really focusing in on the social determinants of health and those things that are not covered under our regular healthcare system. So I'll give you a quick little bit of history. The Alberni-Clyquot Health Network is actually hosted, so we receive fiscal hosting through the Alberni-Clyquot Regional District. Thank you very much. And we were formed in about 2011 when Island Health came to the regional district with funding to look at ways that we can better impact health indicators in our region, and really focusing on those health indicators that are impacted by community infrastructure. So we were looking at a number of different indicators at that time. But in 2011, 2012, ourselves and the Cowichan Health Network were formed, really in response to some lower health indicators as compared to other health authorities throughout the island. Since that time, there is now health networks in almost every regional district across Vancouver Island. And the health network here in the Alberni-Clyquot, we are one of the longer functioning health networks. So ourselves, Waddington, and the Cowichan Valley. So we took a little bit of time to create our governance structures. So from 2011 to 2014, we were working on that, really looking at what the community needs were and how that could look. And from 2015 till now, so the past 8 years, we've been moving forward, working very closely with local communities around community health. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our governance structure, our 4 main priority areas, and the work that we're currently doing under those priority areas for this presentation. So the ACHN structure, we have a leadership table, which we call the Table of Partners. Here you'll find the listing of our 2022 Table of Partners representatives. Those are the individuals that are tasked with decision-making for the overall operations of the Alberni-Clyquot Health Network. They are also tasked with bringing information from their communities, knowledge, stories, and inputs, as well as relaying that back out from other stakeholders around the table. We use action tables to move forward priorities and projects that are specific to our priority areas. And we have a vast network of individuals that are accessing the information that we produce. We also consider anybody who's residing in the Alberni-Clyquot as a member of our network, as we are looking at overall health of the population. So we are working currently from our 2018 strategic plan. That included 4 priority areas: network developments, where we are always looking at our governance structure, what that looks like, what it means, and then also looking for ways to better network in the communities. We're looking at community connectedness, which oftentimes looks like inter-community transportation and access to health services. Building regional prosperity, which is our work around poverty reduction, and knowledge and capacity building, which is very much our catch-all priority area, in which we're currently working around youth issues and some other opportunities to connect other resources, other networks in our region to resources. So a little bit of a deeper dive into poverty reduction. In 2022, so last year, we completed and presented around the 2022 Poverty Reduction Action Plan. Here you'll see a little bit of a snapshot of the executive summary. We are constantly looking at community engagement to look at ways that we can move forward those recommendations. And we are participating in provincial and national communities of practice and other networks in order to see some of those recommendations come forward, as well as looking at I guess wise practices from other regions in order to implement these. You can find all of our information on our website, as well as that action plan, which I just referred to. So connected communities, again, this is very much around transportation. We convene and lead the West Coast Transportation Working Group. We've worked in collaboration with the ACRD on the West Coast Transit consultations and the planning around that, and have worked really closely with community stakeholders around transportation planning in all the communities in the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. And so this work started in 2015 with a transportation consultation in the region, and very much assisted in identifying some of the, I guess, big ticket items and opportunities to better connect individuals in our region to not only health services, but just basic needs within the region. And here you'll see a small snapshot of a project that we used. It's called our Transportation Assets Map. It's also on our website under our work and transportation. And this identifies the transportation resources in each one of our communities as they relate to health services. So how far does somebody from a Houseit have to travel to an appointment in Port Alberni for dental or any sort of specialist appointments? What does that cost and what infrastructure is there to assist them? So it's been a great advocacy tool, and I anticipate we'll be needing to update that pretty significantly. So knowledge and capacity building. This is, as I mentioned, kind of our catch-all, where we have the ability to participate with other networks throughout the region. We've been doing a lot of work networking the networks. So here you'll see a small list of networks that we participate in regularly, assisting with facilitation and or connection to resources, and really working closely with child and youth, health related and localized coalitions in order to see some of these, some of their priorities and our intersecting priorities move forward. We've worked very closely with the Tamarack Institute, both on poverty reduction as well as on youth programming. And we work very closely with our other community health network partners across the island to organize annual gatherings and look at our shared priorities throughout Vancouver Island and ways that we can bring forward those to impact policy, decision-making, and intercommunity issues. And the one big project that we've really been active with is through the Tamarack Institute. We've been moving forward with our communities building youth futures projects. So this is an opportunity that was presented to us through Tamarack with funding from the federal government. We've been able to secure over $600,000 in funding and hired 3 youth facilitators. So we have a youth facilitator in the West Coast communities, in the Alberni Valley, and in the Barclay communities. And these individuals are tasked with engaging youth, looking at bringing forward their priorities and empowering them to assist in implementing strategies and programs to meet and ensure that those priorities are captured. So the priorities that have been identified regionally are around youth support and belonging, mental health and addictions, and connection to land. And so we're just working on the strategic implementation of some of those interventions and programs at this point. I've included a snapshot of our plan on a page, which is quite busy, but includes the critical shifts that youth have identified, where they'd like to be and where they'd like to be in the future. And then coming up in the future, carrying forward from those priority areas, there's a lot of opportunity. We've just been funded for our next round. So from March 2023 to 2024 for our Communities Building Youth Futures program. So there's a lot of opportunity to engage with youth in decision making. I do anticipate our youth facilitators bringing forward groups of youth to come to some of the municipalities as well as the regional district board. And then there's also opportunity if you are looking for youth inputs to engage with those facilitators and have that opportunity. We are looking at the UBCM Poverty Reduction Stream 2 funding. We've been formulating a plan to put in an application through the Alberni-Clyde Regional District, if possible. And this is very much targeted towards the equity building actions that are outlined in the Poverty Reduction Action Plan and include some resources and workshops that we have found some really great examples of resources and workshops for local municipal leaders around equity and policy. So interesting kind of pieces to assist in community engagement and better translating decisions that need to be made in terms of some of the complicated issues we have around housing, transportation, and some of the sticky issues for municipal leaders making those decisions. We have been directed to organize and look for an opportunity to have a Alberni Valley network gathering to plan around some health priorities, which would also assist us in creating our 2023 to 2023 strategic plan. And then lastly, the Vancouver Islands Community Health Network, kind of network of networks. We'll be hosting our island-wide community health network gathering in the spring, and we'll be looking forward to inviting many members of the board as well as individuals from the community to that gathering. So there's lots of ways to get in touch. I've listed a few here. Obviously, you can always email me through the ACHN coordinator email address. I've included our youth facilitator emails here. And as always, our website has a ton of information on it. Here you'll find our star for the About ACHN. You can find links to all of our governance documents, annual reports, and many more action plans. And our work tab has information on transportation in the region, poverty reduction, as well as knowledge and capacity building. And there you will also find a good amount of information around the Communities Building Youth Futures project. So thank you very much for your time today, and open it back up.
Great. Thank you so much, Marcy. We really appreciate all the hard work that you and your organization does. Is there any questions for board members to Marcy? Director Steer?
Great. Thank you, Marcy. Appreciate the presentation once again. Just a quick question around in terms of the West Coast Transportation Working Group, for example, you put up a great resource in terms of the transportation network, specifically around healthcare. I'm just curious with the dynamic nature of what's been going on recently in terms of the updating of that resource. Is that something that is actively ongoing? As we know that that picture has changed quite radically, and I'm just, the reason I bring it up is that information I think is going to be critical in some of the conversations that I believe will be coming forward in terms of an interim resource for that transportation service.
So that update would be completely up to me, and I'm not sure if I have the resources at this time to go sift through all of the transportation updates, but it is certainly something that we can use as a visual to speak to some of the transportation barriers. So the baseline information would be very applicable, and then the updates, I think that's going to take likely at least 20 hours of my time, so I'll fit it in when I can.
Great. Thanks so much.
Director Bakken?
Thank you, Marcy. When you showed the slide with the various partners or participants, there was a couple from Banfield Community Affairs Society and the School Association. Are they both active? I just want to make sure that we're still plugged in, and if you needed a push, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much, Bob. They are still very active, and actually Jaslyn was not on the call right when we started our presentation, so I didn't see that she slid in. But we have Jaslyn here, who is the community school coordinator, as well as our community youth facilitator for the region. And so both community affairs and the community school association are very active. And Jaslyn wanted to wave hello.
That's fantastic. And Jaslyn's such a great ambassador for our community in so many ways. Thank you.
Any other questions for Marcy before we let her go? Seeing none, I just want to thank you again, Marcy, for coming and presenting to the board about all of your activities and important work that you're doing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. No correspondence for action. There's some things for correspondence for information. Wendy, can you just give a quick summary of our list of things we received for information?
Sure. So it'll be fairly brief. So there's several correspondence that come into the regional district. So we just submitted it for information for the board of directors. If there's any questions on any of the items, we'd be pleased to answer any questions from directors.
Does anybody want to pull anything out and talk about it? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Next, request for decisions and bylaws. First under this item is a request for decision, revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 51159. And we have our director of finance going to speak to this. Terry, please.
Madam Chair. Chair. Sorry, I don't know if I missed it, but do we need to pass the motion to receive the items A through A of the correspondence?
Absolutely. Bob, you're making that motion?
I am, Madam Chair.
Seconder? Director Roberts, all in favor of the motion to receive? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Terry?
Okay, so this is a little bit deja vu for you. We need to just adopt a new revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw. Unfortunately, we had two bylaws with the same number. And so instead of Banfield redoing their DCC public open house, we're just going to redo the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw. So the first motion is to repeal the existing one, and then it's the exact same bylaw with a brand new number. So I appreciate the board's consideration of this matter.
Any questions for Terry or comments? Dr. Roberts, would you like to make these motions, please?
Oh,
I'm not used to this. The recommendation of the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors repeal bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number F1157 2022.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Director Roth. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
Second, that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to the bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number F1159 2023.
And do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to the bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number 1159 2023.
Second by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to the bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number F1159/2023.
Second by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
Finally, that the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw cited as revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw number F1159/2023.
Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is amendment to bylaw number A1090, board remuneration, expenses and benefits 2022. Can we ask the corporate officer to talk about this, please, Wendy?
Yes, thank you. So in August of 2022, the Board of Directors adopted a new board remuneration and expenses bylaw. And this bylaw came into effect after the elections on November 1st. We have identified an error in section 3B where travel on gravel road, it's listed at 20% per kilometer. That should actually read 20 cents per kilometer. So for your consideration is an amending bylaw to fix this error. So it's submitted for consideration of 3 readings and adoption.
Is there any questions or comments for Wendy? Dr. Roth?
I was just wondering about the amount. That's very low.
Yeah, so we are actually basing it on the Canada revenue right now. So that's, yeah, that's what it's at.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it could go up or down depending on that. That's what it's at right now.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Director Roth, would you like to read the motions?
Sure. That the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw A1090-1, board remuneration, expenses and benefit bylaws amendment 2023.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Director Roberts. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
That the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to bylaw A1090-1, board remuneration, expenses and benefits bylaw amendment 2023.
Do you have a seconder? Seconded by Director Roberts. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
That the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaw A1090-1, board remuneration, expenses and benefits bylaw amendment 2023.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Oh, seconder? Second by Director Roberts. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
That the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors adopt bylaw A1090-1, board remuneration, expenses and benefits bylaw amendment 2023.
Will you get a second? Second by Director Roberts. Any final questions or comments? Director Roberts?
Yeah, thank you. As Director Roth mentioned, 20 cents a kilometer. What was it previously, if I may ask?
Terry, do you recall what it was previously?
So it's an extra 20 cents, when you go from gravel or pavement to gravel. So the CRA rate in 2022 was 61 cents per kilometer. I believe that it is 68 cents a kilometer. And then once you leave the pavement, you'll get an extra 20 cents. So you'd be 88 cents now. So the problem with the bylaw was that it read that you got an extra 20% on top of it, not an extra 20 cents. So 20% is less than 20 cents on that. So
Thank you.
you look still confused, but I'm going to go with it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments before we vote? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is request for decision, Sprout Lake Fire Protection Service Area Boundary Extension. Wendy, would you like to speak on this, please?
Yes, thank you. So the regional district received a petition from property owners at Sprout Lake. If you're wondering which property, it is defined on the map in your agenda package. The regional fire services manager and the fire chief have both confirmed that this property can be provided with fire protection. So we've drafted a bylaw for consideration of 3 readings by the board this afternoon to amend the service area boundaries to include this property. If 3 readings are received, we will bring this bylaw back for consideration of adoption at the next meeting. Part of this process requires consent of the participants of this service. That's Sprout Lake. So Director Cote has advised that she will consent to the adoption of this bylaw at the next meeting.
Thank you, Wendy. Do you have any comments, Director Cossier?
I think it's good to increase the fire protection area for a new development. I think it's development number 45. It's not going to get covered, and I think they should be covered.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board members? Director Lecourcier, would you like to read the motions, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give first reading to bylaw number 85611, Sprout Lake Protection Service Area Amendment 2023.
Did we get a seconder? Seconded by Director Ross. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead, please.
That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give second reading to bylaw 856-11, Sprout Lake Protection Service Area Amendment 2023.
Second by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead, please.
That the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors give third reading to bylaw 856-11, Sprout Lake Fire Protection Service Area Amendment 2023.
Second by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda, request for a decision regarding the ACRD and City of Port Alberni Aquatics Feasibility Study. And Michael McGregor is going to speak to this. Go ahead, Michael.
Good afternoon. So I've taken over as staff lead for the aquatics feasibility study. The last time that this project was in front of the board was in September when they awarded the contract for HCMA architecture and design. They initiated the project in November and they've begun their initial research and their findings and assessing existing systems, creating communication and engagement plans. The ACRD's first step is to form an advisory committee. And the purpose of this advisory committee is to get together First Nations representatives, elected representatives, 5 community members, and then just kind of dig into the details of the study throughout the process. There's a few different technical memos that we'll be seeing at the board. So it's kind of presenting to that, having good conversations with staff and with the rest of the committee, and then providing recommendations to bring to the board to make an informed decision. So this report attaches the terms of reference for that advisory committee, and assuming that the board endorses those terms of reference, the next step would be we put an open call for the public, and one of the upcoming board meetings will be appointing, the response that we get from that.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add to the CEO?
Sure. I'll just add that in September when this was presented, it was very similar in structure, but it did not have community representation. And HCMA, I think, appropriately flagged that it would be useful to have that additional dialogue with that group. It just it increases the variability of the discussion prior to getting to the board meeting. And that's why the amendment for this is coming in. We, as a committee of the board, we need the board to actually approve it in order to allow us to move forward and make a call for individual representation. We'll also just flag that in the structure, we're looking for community members that represent each one of the key areas that really has interest in this discussion. So it does allow us to distill the information coming from the communities and also make sure that the communities have the additional seat as well in that discussion. This is not really, they won't be voting to make decisions. They'll be digesting information and helping make comments and some recommendations to the board as we go through the depth of information that's going to come to us.
Great, thank you. Is there any comments, Director Kochi?
Is this also going to include the West Coast? Because I understand the people from the West Coast periodically come and use the swimming pool and everything here. So are they going to be included in this study as well?
So although this doesn't focus on the West Coast, I have informally flagged it with the West Coast Multiplex Society. So they are aware that this is going on. And the reason why I flagged it is there's a discussion on the West Coast. There's been a longstanding discussion with the West Coast Multiplex. And of course, how we engage the community here is pertinent to how we could tentatively engage on the West Coast, but also understanding on what the West Coast decides to do over time with recreation may or may not have an impact on what Port Alberni or the Valley here does. And so they're aware of it. They're not formally part of it because the catchment is I think, too far on that point. But certainly the comments that have been made are going to be part of the dialogue as well. Understanding that for West Coast, things like swimming lessons matter, but it becomes more than a day trip if you're coming out here. And so I think if and when the dialogue moves to the West Coast, it'll really be about the barriers they face and what things we could consider if we were to proceed. But the first question is if and how we proceed here. And that's going to be more of a localized sub-regional discussion first.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great question. Any more questions from the board? Director Boyko?
Yes, thank you. I just wondered about the, I'm just reading it here. Community members at large representing different areas. Is the ACRE going to send out a notice of people to put their names in, or should the directors be looking for people? And how would they be chosen? Thank you.
I can take that one. So yeah, we'll put an advertisement in the paper, similar to what we do with our APC members, I believe. So, and then we'll take all the response that we get from that, and we'll bring it to the board of directors after, and then the board will appoint those members.
Yeah, I think it may be beneficial if you do know someone who might be interested and willing to do the work on the board. Certainly let them know that this is coming out soon. I actually have someone in mind. He was a very integral part of the Multiplex Society, and I think you could bring a lot of lessons learned from that to this. So I'm going to be letting him know that he can put in his application to the regional district. So absolutely, if you do know somebody, please let them know that it's coming up. Thank you.
Nope, I think that'd be great. And to get some people with young children involved that will be affected by this in the next 5-10 years, and will be actually be built. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from the board? Okay. Director Broca, would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, just give me a second to get right back to the same page here.
The very top of page 4.
Yeah, I can do it. Thank you, Chair. That make the motion that the Alberni Claycott Regional District Board of Directors endorse the creation of the Alberni Valley Aquatic Center Advisory Committee and the associated terms of references as presented.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for the motion? seconded by Director Roberts. Any questions or comments before we vote? All in favor of the motion? Is there any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is planning matters. Sprout Lake Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw, Memorandum and Bylaw 41443. Mike, would you like to speak on this, please?
Thank you. So this is in regards to a bylaw to amend the Sprout Lake Community Plan, and this is in relation to the zoning bylaw project we're working on. So a first public hearing was held on December 5th for the Sprout Lake OCP amendment. And then on December 21st, the board received additional information regarding public consultation, as well as some identified changes that were recommended to the OCP map. So staff recommended staff are recommending to the board to amend the bylaw and then give it second reading, delegate a second public hearing, and then in relation to some of the concerns expressed at the first public hearing about the notice requirements, to have some additional sandwich boards placed as supplementary notice for the public hearings, and not just with respect to the Sprout Lake public hearing, but with respect to the other 4 public hearings that are required as part of the zoning bylaw project. So we just identified these specifically. So that is the other, there's 5 bylaw numbers at the end. That's what that's in relation to. And I do want to note that the map amendments that we're recommending be made are for properties that in the current OCP the majority of them are designated residential, and in the new OCP they were inadvertently put as rural, and one of them is part of an active application. So it's important that we make this amendment, in my opinion, make this amendment at this time so that the property owner can continue with their subdivision application and wouldn't be affected by this. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Director Lacoste, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
No, I think with the information that Mike Gerb brought up, I think it's important that there's a second hearing. And so we can proceed with that.
Any questions or comments from the other board members? Dr. Lacoste, would you like to make the motions, please?
That bylaw P1443, Sprout Lake Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw be amended as shown on map 2, land use designation.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead, please.
That bylaw P1443, Sprout Lake Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw be read a second time as amended.
Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
That a second public hearing for bylaw P1443 be delegated by the Director for Electoral Area D, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district.
Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
That the Board of Directors direct staff to place 1 or more sandwich boards that provided supplementary notice of public hearings dated for bylaws P1443, P1444, P1446, P1447, and P1448.
Seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? Dr. Roberts?
Yeah, thank you for that. Is through the chair to Mr. Erg, besides the sandwich boards, would there be any notification put in the paper?
Yes, the Local Government Act would require the legislative notifications as well, which includes 2 advertisements in the newspaper. So this is just an additional in addition to that. And we found that in the past, sandwich boards have been an effective way for just letting the community know about a public meeting or public hearing.
Thank you. Any other questions before we vote on the motion? Oh, sorry, Mr. Bocchio. Go ahead, Director.
quick question. Are we gonna do sandwich boards and newspaper and online as well? Because online also gets out to a lot of people very fast and spreads very quickly, like we've seen in the past couple of meetings. It would be great if the directors got notice in advance on the online stuff and they could put it out to the respective organizations and have it spread like wildfire as well. Thank you.
So when the information is put on our website and we will, the directors are always notified as far as when the public hearing is going to be, and we will make sure that we email the public hearing notice to the electoral area director that's chairing each of these meetings in advance. And if directors wish or choose to email that out, that would be great.
Thank you. The more we can do to get the word out, the better, right? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is development variance application report and permit for DVF 22007 Doroco 7001 Cypress Boulevard, Cherry Creek. Mike, can you speak on this, please?
Yes, thank you. So this is a variance from a minor stream for a property on Cypress Boulevard. This is in Cherry Creek. And so the variance is for a stream setback to be reduced to 19.6 meters from the current 30 meters. And I do want to note that this is a variance or reduction that under the proposed new zoning bylaw wouldn't be required. So what is in the draft zoning bylaw is a 15-meter setback from these types of minor streams, which matches the current development permit areas within the Cherry Creek OCP. And it's in relation to the property owner wanting to build an accessory dwelling unit. There is some timeline concerns from the applicant, and we are trying to get this through as quickly as we can to help facilitate it. So if the board approves sort of the first step in this variance, staff have set up a advisory planning commission meeting for January 16th. And then at the next board meeting, we would bring back a report outlining the recommendations from the Cherry Creek Advisory Planning Commission, as well as any public feedback we get from the required notification. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Any comments? Is there anyone who'd like to make this motion? Dr. Borko?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Make the motion that the board of directors consider issuing development variance permit Delta Victor Foxtrot 22007, subject to neighbors' properties being notified as per Local Government Act, Section 449. Thank you.
Seconded by Director Roth. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is staff reports. Terry's going to talk about 2023 BC assessment values, which is always a hot topic of conversation around this time of the year.
Yes, it is for sure. Not as exciting this year as last year, which I'm grateful for. Last year, those increases were crazy. I would say the one would be District of Ucluelet. It looks like you have a large increase this year. I don't know if the surveyors just came out to your area or what is going on, but sometimes they make sense and other times they don't. So we will have a discussion through budget about what the impact was. And I think we ended up having a great talk. I will make sure I crunch the numbers of like, if we requisitioned exactly what we requisitioned last year, how much more would District of Ucluelet pay because of their increase? Like just singling you out, sorry, Director McEwen, but it is kind of a good piece of information for you to have to take back to your communities. Because for example, last year, Beaver Creek ended up with a 15% tax increase, but even if nothing had changed from the previous year, they would have had like a 9% tax increase just because of the change in assessed values from one area versus the other. So it is a piece of information that we try to develop. Again, we don't have control over these assessed values. We just are the users of the information. So happy to answer any questions, but definitely something we continue to talk about during budget season.
Thank you, Terry. Any questions for Terry? Could I get a motion from someone that the Board of Directors receive this report? Moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Roberts. Any questions before we vote? No? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. No unfinished business, no late business. Question period. Any questions from the public? No? Wendy, any questions from people on Zoom or by email?
No, Madam Chair, no questions from the public today.
Great. Well, that was a quick meeting. Could we get a motion to adjourn? And just a reminder, there's a hospital board meeting right after this, so don't leave. Move to adjourn by Director Ross, second by Director Coisier. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Right. Pardon me? Go ahead. We'll take a 5-minute break. How does that sound? Okay, are we all back and ready to go for this exciting hospital board meeting? I would like to call the January Hospital District Board of Meeting Directors open. Call to order at 2:25. I'd like to recognize this meeting is being held on the Unseen territories of the Hoochas and Chisnot First Nations, and we're grateful for the opportunity to do so. And people are calling in from other areas. I'd like to acknowledge and be grateful for those as well. So we have an agenda in front of us. Is there any additions from the board members? Dr. Beckett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make the Banfield Health Center report. I have a report this time.
Thank you. Okay, I've just added you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Director Roth. Could I have a seconder? Second by Director Roberts. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, I had my hand up to add a report.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a Ucluelet Medical Center report to add in. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we have the minutes from the board directors meeting, December 14th, 2023. Could we have someone make a motion, please? Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could someone make a motion to approve the minutes of the Alberni-Quayquat Regional Hospital District Board of Directors held on December 14th, 2023? Moved by Director Boyko, second by Director Johnson. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. No delegations today, no correspondence for action, correspondence for information. There's one item, a Highland Health news release. Island Health announces 2022-2023 Community Wellness Grant recipients. Could we get a motion that there's correspondence be received? Moved by Director Roth. Could we get a seconder? Seconded by Director Coursier. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Reports, West Coast Native Healthcare Society. Director Coursier?
No report.
Thank you. Tofino General Hospital, Director Spear.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick update. The ATCO trailer that housed the COVID testing has been removed from site, and in its place, a much smaller building that will house specialists when they come up to Tofino General Hospital to do what they do. And that's about it. The site director was unavailable for updates this particular meeting.
Thank you very much. Alberni-Quayquat Health Network, we've had a presentation on that organization, so I think we're up to date on that. Or did you have anything to add, Director Coursier?
No, that's Marcy did a fine job, and I think that brought us all up to date. Thank you.
Thank you so much. West Coast General Hospital. No, I didn't miss the last meeting because I was ill with the flu, so this information is a little bit behind. But I will bring you up to date as much as I can on the emergency room renovations. They're waiting for mechanical and electrical inspections. Lights were to be delivered and installed at the end of December, and fire alarms are also scheduled to be delivered at the end of December and installed. They were going around making a checklist of things still left to be done. And so hopefully at the next meeting, I'll be able to tell you when everything's going to be completed, but it's getting there. Slowly but surely, it's very exciting. Banfield Health Network, Director Beckett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On February 15th, they anticipate that they'll be doing another public COVID booster and regular flu shot. Nursing staff at the center identified that, like many communities, they're were a number of children that have been, come down with COVID or flu, and they're suggesting that and encouraging parents to get their children in for flu shots. They talked a little bit, well, not a little bit, they talked a lot about the challenges they saw at Christmas time with the storm and weather. There were 3 significant evacuations, medical emergency evacuations that took place that were extremely challenging. And they wanted to make sure that I acknowledged the work of Canadian Coast Guard, Port Alberni SARS made 2 trips, and of course our own local Banfield volunteer firefighters and the first responder teams that helped out under very, very difficult conditions. They also identified that during the weather and the storm, on top of the additional workload and being short-staffed because of the weather, they had some system failures, including TELUS and their generator backup. They went on to explain that Island Health has partnered with TELUS and created a parallel fail-safe system for the telephones. And unfortunately, I don't have the technical information or background on this, but they said it was marvelous that many folks in the community had lost their telephones, but Island Health was able to contact Island Health, the Island Health Network, and that was a godsend for them. They are going to follow up with Bob Schmidt, who is Banfield's emergency planning coordinator, to discuss some of these challenges and ramifications and the impact on the community. And I think, Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you very much, Director Beckett. So under other reports, I'm going to ask Director McEwen to talk about the Hewitt Health Center.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to make the board aware, Island Health has posted an RFP for the lease of a 6,700 plus square feet of space for the development of a primary care network in Ucluelet. The RFP notes that the primary care network team will function 5 days a week, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with the potential to expand the hours of service. The proposal calls for space for 2 physicians, 1 registered nurse, a social worker, occupational therapist, community health works, and 4 clinician counseling rehab workers. And the RFP says their preferred occupancy date is September 1st, 2023, which seems very optimistic, but proposals are due by January 26th of this year. So that's really good news for Ucluelet. We've had a lot of issues with our clinic not being open for regular hours, and so it's going to be really good news down the road. We've been working on this for 8 or 9 years.
That's fantastic, Director McEwen. I'm really excited to hear that. Director Steer?
Thank you. Through the chair, Director McEwen, I missed part of that. That RFP was for the physical location for the primary care network in UKE?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, in terms of locations, there can't be that many that would be suitable for this. I'm just curious because, of course, space in our communities, as we all know, is very difficult to come by. So I wish them good luck by January 26th.
Well, we do have a builder and an architect that have put a comprehensive plan together already. They were just waiting they have come before council, but we're waiting to see their finalized plan now that this RFP is out. So it's kind of a shelf-ready project, and the land has already been identified.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments, Director Roberts?
Yeah, through the chair to Marilyn. Is this a remodel on a building or is it brand new?
This is brand new. It's a vacant lot at the corner of Rainforest and Marine Drive. If the applicant is successful with his application to the RFP.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? Perfect. Can we get a motion that the Regional Hospital Board of Directors receive reports A through E? Moved by Director Roberts, seconded by Director Steer. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. No unfinished business, no late business. Any questions from the public, Wendy?
No, Madam Chair, no questions from the public.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Director Roberts, second by Director DeCoursey. All in favor of the motion to adjourn? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much, everybody. Awesome.